good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Art of God's Captive into Call of the Captive's Diary, episode 17, season finale, written by Precious Chumwe Obialor-Ukazim. Alright, so let's get straight into today's episode. So, as soon as Sarita finished asking the question, a brief, very brief but awkward silence settled over the room. It was the kind of silence that spoke loudly. Chizaram and Nnamdi had exchanged glances, perhaps to decide which of them was going to answer the question, and Nnamdi nodded for Chizaram to go ahead and answer the question. As his parents returned their attention to the screen, Junior shifted in his seat, suddenly feeling like every eye had turned in his direction. In his mind, he wondered if his parents and others on the screen were already drawing conclusions and unable to bear it any longer. He burst out laughing and spoke up in a quick self-defense. "Mom, why are you looking at me like that?" he said, laughing. "I've never pecked nor kissed anyone before. I'm innocent," he added, raising both ends dramatically, and the room exploded into laughter. Onamdi and Chizaram laughed as well, shaking their head. "Who is looking at you? Guilty conscience," Chizaram teased. "And why are you even defending yourself now? Who asked you?" she added. "I don't know, just wanted to clear the air. Sarita can bear witness to that. I'm being a good boy," he prided in himself, grinning. "Don't worry. You don't need to defend yourself. We are not suspecting you." Nnamdi assured him, laughing, and that was when Junior calmed down, even a long sigh of relief. Chizaram laughed gently before responding to Sarita's question, a tone calm and measured. "Sarita, that's a very thoughtful question, and please don't mind Junior. It's just being dramatic," she began. "In many cultures around the world, a light peck on the cheek or a kiss on the forehead is simply a form of greeting, affection, or respect between family members or close friends, and when done without romantic intent, it is not inherently inappropriate." Chizaram said, paused briefly, looked at Sarita with warmth, then continued more firmly. "However, when it comes to individuals who are courting or dating, wisdom is required. What may seem harmless on the surface can easily awaken emotions and desires that God designed to be fulfilled within marriage. The Bible encourages us not to stir up love before its proper time. So the question is not only about the act itself, but about the intent behind it and the effect it produces. If a gesture begins to create longing, attachment, or sexual desire, then it has crossed the boundary that should be honored. Courting couples must be honest with each other, set clear limits, and choose actions that protect their purity and spiritual focus. As spiritual people, we are called to walk in love, but also in discernment, doing nothing that would lead our hearts or bodies where only marriage has the right to take them," she concluded softly, and Nnamdi nodded in agreement with her. "Is that okay, Sarita?" she asked, and Sarita answered in the affirmative, smiling. "Great." Chizaram smiled. "Now let's talk about career growth. How do you prioritize your professional development, and how can you support your partner in his or her career goals?" she asked, her eyes resting briefly on Umasnachi and David. She looked also at Junior and Sarita, and finally at Unemeka, who sat upright, attentive and thoughtful on the screen. "This question is for everyone," Chizaram continued gently. "Whether you're already courting, hoping to begin soon, or currently single, career growth is not just about ambition, it's about stewardship, timing, and partnership," she said, and Nnamdi nodded in agreement. "You see, as counselors," he added, "we've seen many relationships strained not because of lack of love, but because expectations around work, growth, and support were never discussed early." He told them, then Chizaram leaned forward slightly. "Yeah, so I would like all of you to reflect honestly," she said. "How are you preparing yourself professionally? And for those considering marriage or courtship, how do you envision supporting or being supported by your partner without competition, resentment, or neglect?" she said, smiling again while inviting the conversation to begin. There was a brief pause after Chizaram's question, the kind that invited honesty. Masnachi spoke first. She adjusted her posture slightly, her voice calm but confident. For me, career growth is very structured, she said. I'm in my 300 level studying medicine here in the UK, so my career priorities right now are my studies, clinical exposure, and staying mentally healthy. Medicine is demanding, and I know it will only get more intense, she said, and glanced at David and smiled softly. David have been very supportive. He supports me by being patient with my schedule, checking on me not just during exams. He's prioritized my mental health so much and is always reminding me to rest. Even though he's in the US, he understands that there are times I won't be as available as I should, and he does everything to make sure that our relationship doesn't suffer neglect or resentment. David nodded in agreement with her and took over. Yeah, as a business person and a cybersecurity professional, my work is flexible but mentally demanding too, he said. I prioritize continuous learning because tech keeps evolving. For me, supporting Umasinachi means not competing with our calling or rushing our timeline. I see our career as an investment into our future, and it's my duty to provide emotional support, financial planning, and encouragement, even from a distance. Chizama smiled approvingly while listening to both of them. That's a beautiful example of complementary growth, not rivalry, she said and then nodded. Onamdi was just sitting there observing, keeping his thoughts to himself. These old men, fear them. Junior cleared his throat. Well, I just graduated, and while some of my mates are rushing into corporate jobs, I feel led differently, he said. I plan to enroll in Bible school because I sense a call into pastoral ministry. And right now, my focus is spiritual formation, discipline, and preparing for that responsibility. He hesitated briefly, then adjusted his seat and leaned slightly towards the camera, a small thoughtful smile on his face. And if and when courtship or marriage starts, I believe support for me would look like understanding that ministry isn't always glamorous or financially predictable at first. And I want her to understand with me and stand by me. Sarita nodded, a kind of assuring that she would be there for him. Sarita and I have talked about her career as a model, and I understand that modeling is a career that requires confidence, visibility, and discipline. If I'm going to support Sarita properly, it starts with understanding, not assumptions. He continued, choosing his words carefully. Support for me would mean respecting her professionalism and not confusing her work for her values. It means trusting her boundaries, celebrating her achievements, and not feeling threatened by the attention that comes with her career, because her achievement becomes my achievement when we are married. I will also support her by praying for her, especially for protection, wisdom, and discernment in the industry rather. I know it can come with pressure, so encouragement and emotional safety are important. Junior exhaled softly, then added, and as someone preparing for ministry, I believe my role is not to control or restrict her, but to help her stay grounded in purpose. If there's ever a point where she needs a voice of counsel or accountability, I would offer it in love, not judgment. He concluded, and Unamdi nodded appreciatively, proud of his boy. That's a mature perspective, he said. Support is not insecurity dressed as concern. Chizaram smiled warmly at the screen, nodding in agreement. Yeah, when a man understands support this way, it creates space for growth, not fear, she added while Sarita smiled quietly, visibly encouraged as the call moved forward. She nodded thoughtfully before speaking. Thank you, Junior. As a model, my career is very public and opportunity driven, she said. I prioritize professionalism, personal branding, and moral boundaries. Support from a partner, especially someone called into ministry, would mean mutual respect, no insecurity about visibility, and no compromise of values. And I am glad to have someone like Junior who is not just willing but doing that already, she said, feeling very encouraged. And how would you support him, Sarita? Unamdi interjected gently. She smiled. By respecting his calling, being a present pastor's wife, praying with him and for him, supporting him financially and not pressuring him. to abandon God's direction just to meet societal expectations. She replied confidently, you know, I think this episode is more like something we need to go back to read again. Yeah, because I think it's something I will do. Looking at these two professions, call into ministry and modeling, it's something that I feel that I think do cause much problem, because I want to characterize modeling into the corporate world. The aspect of someone into the corporate world or into an industry getting married to someone in the ministry, like having a ministerial call like Junior rather. This has caused a lot of issues whereby by the time they get married, you see the one called into ministry now telling the wife to abandon her career. Yeah, telling the wife to abandon her career because she's now a pastor's wife, so therefore she's needed in the ministry more. Therefore, she cannot be combining her career with the ministry. But one thing I would say is he knew that she was in that before marrying her. Why didn't you talk or stop her? But you waited till you were married and you stopped her. So you see, this thing has caused a lot of high level of, no, I will not say divorce now in that area, because yes, in this kind of aspect, divorce might not come in, but it has killed a lot of people's dreams. It has killed a lot of aspirations. It has killed a lot of careers, a lot of visions that some people have. Now it might be in that industry, maybe there are some things you've put in line that, oh, these are the things I want to do, and they are according to God's will. But because your partner is in the ministry and it doesn't understand how to support you, this leads to people's vision crashing down. That's why I say this episode is something we need to read so that you can understand how to support your partner in the corporate world and also in the ministry area. I believe those our mama is still going to talk more on this aspect. Yes, I believe she's still going to talk more on this aspect for us to understand that you see these two differences, this ministerial life and the corporate world or the industry world. We need to learn how to balance this so that when these two comes together, especially in the form of marriage, one is not going to kill the other. Now I'm talking about ministry. Sometimes people's other industries to kill the ministry, whereby you don't have time for the ministry also. So if this is just a call for us to learn how to balance things, and it's also a way for us to learn, especially if you're not in the ministry and you're trying to get married to a pastor. Are you How you can balance it unless you're actually preparing your mind to give up your career for this. But you can see in the aspect of Junior and Sarita, none is giving up, like not as if it's fight, like these ones, from the explanation they give, you can see that the ministry would not suffer, neither would our own career, our industry, our own modeling would suffer. None of them would suffer, because by God's grace they can come together in understanding to support each other for the growth of the two. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. I hope you've learned a lot in this episode. See you in the next episode. Have a beautiful and great time. Bye bye.